Joining me in the Rock 104.9 studios prior to this year's 25th annual Warren Haynes Christmas Jam, 2 shows this year. And as expected, both of them sold out, both tomorrow and Saturday. Also joining us in studio, Jerry Lida, who brought the guitar. That was part of the auction. And Eric, our high bidder in the guitar, he's got his family with him, including a young in there, about 5-6 months old, I understand.
Sure. Patterson.
So
Patterson
we were comparing baby photos before.
Yeah.
Hudson, Patterson, and so how's that? Let's get off to that roaring start there. How's life as a dad treating you now that you've kind of gotten to this routine?
It's amazing. You know, the best thing I ever did. And of course, it sounds cliche to say that because everybody says it, but it's because it's true. It's just amazing. He definitely keeps you on your toes all day long. He's a wonderful kid, and I'm a proud dad.
I can tell, and that kind of answers the first question I was going to ask, which is when you run into people like Derek Trucks and his wife Susan Tedeschi, also young parents, do you talk music or do you talk child rearing?
Both. I mean, you know, if something's going on with the kids, you definitely start there, you know, and there usually is. You know, it's funny because having been in the music business a long time, the longer you stay in the business, the more backstage conversation turns to people's kids and in some cases people's grandkids and stuff. I know a lot of people that are grandfathers that are out there touring.
I did a backstage years ago with Aerosmith, and I had never met them before, and I was expecting this party backstage with, you know, just everything you would imagine as far as debauchery. And they had a temporary playground set up for all their kids. It wasn't quite what you expect of a rock and roll backstage with Aerosmith, but I guess as everyone gets older and has families, that's where logically goes.
Yeah, and you try and make as much, you create as much time together as possible. Sometimes that means unorthodox ways like that, you know.
We're going to look back to some previous visits because you've been doing this for so long, playing some songs from past. I can't remember exactly. It was the first year you started to come by our studios. We appreciate it every year, of course.
1891.
That's a long time. I had no idea it predated the previous century. So and you look fantastic.
Thank you.
Let me just say that we do have a lot of music, so I guess that explains it.
Music keeps you young. Yeah, I'm in my 200s now.
Well, wow. I can just say wow then. We're going to play...
How old does that make you, Rick?
Slightly younger than you.
Okay, that's right. And it'll always be that way, unfortunately.
Eric picked out Patchwork Quilt from a previous year's performance. We're going to play that one. And one off the new album from Gov't Mule, Captured. That is off of Shout. Let's talk about that. That's to my knowledge, and somebody else may have done it, but I don't know. A double album, which is the same music on both albums, but of course Mule playing one, standard album, and then all other artists performing the same music. How did that come to be? And obviously the end result's fantastic.
We didn't go into the studio with the concept. We were just going to make a normal Mule record, and we hadn't planned on any guests at all. One of the songs that I'd written called Funny Little Tragedy reminded me of Elvis Costello. And even when I wrote it, it was very different than anything Gov't Mule had ever done. And so I had been hanging out with Elvis in Australia and Chicago and a few different places. We worked together on some festivals and stuff. And we were emailing back and forth, and I just decided to ask him his advice on some recording to capture the sound, mostly of approaching the vocal performance for that song. And he sent me an email back saying that the way we got that sound on those early records is by using a really cheap microphone because they were so low budget. They were in this really low budget studios. They were recording 8-track. And he said, so if you use the cheapest microphone you can find, and he went through some specifics and stuff. And I emailed him back to tell him it turned out great. And when that happened, I thought, well, I'd sure like to hear him sing it. But I hadn't asked him yet. And then we had a similar thing happen with Dr. John. We were going to be on the road with Dr. John, and one of the songs was kind of crying out for him. And then a similar thing with Toots from Toots and the Maytals. when we added this final section to this song that turned out to be a reggae song, it reminded us so much of Toots. I started thinking about him, probably largely because he had called me about playing and singing on his new record, and so that thought was in my mind. And so we said, well, what if we got Elvis Costello and Dr. John and Toots to each sing like a verse or something? And then, well, that doesn't make sense to bring them all this way to sing a small part. Why don't we have them sing the whole song and make an alternate version? And then that turned into, why don't we do that with every song? And so started making phone calls, and it was a wonderful process, but it took a lot of coordinating and scheduling.
Now, Grace Potter is one of the artists that's performing on that album, Shout. She's also involved in this year's Christmas Jam playing Saturday night. So we can probably expect her to perform a song off Shout.
I think so. We've done Whisper in Your Soul, which is the song that she sang on disc 2. We've done that twice, once at her festival in Vermont and once at the Locken Festival in Virginia. And since she's going to be here, I see no reason why not.
I know folks are pretty excited about some late additions. Widespread Panic, not part of the original lineup. Some of the members, of course, have been here before, but as a full band, they have not. So this is the first time for that. And Greg Allman, your dear friend, who's going to be playing both nights.
Yeah, it was good to kind of add them after the fact. With Widespread Panic, we knew they wanted to play, but they had their Asheville shows up, and from a contractual standpoint, they couldn't really be announced. And at one point, we were going to wait and not announce them and just surprise people like we did with the Avett Brothers last year. But then with Greg, Greg was planning on coming the whole time. I don't know if he was planning on coming both nights, but he was going to come one of the nights. But he's in the middle of working on a new record as well, and so they keep moving his schedule around. So he was available, then he was unavailable, then he was available again, and it all worked out.
And the Greg Allman tribute show that's coming up in Atlanta at the Tabernacle.
That's going to be great.
That's got an all-star lineup. I think Jackson Brown, there's a whole bunch of others that are a part of that.
Yeah, and I think Dr. John's going to be there. I don't know if they've announced him yet, but it's wonderful. Vince Gill, there's a lot of people on that show that were part of the Love for Levon tribute that Greg and I did together for Levon Helm. And it's the same people putting it on. So a lot of the same artists and stuff, and that's going to be a fabulous show.
We're talking a little bit about Shout, so let's play a track off that, Captured, off the new double album from Gov't Mule on Rock 104.9. Captured off Shout from Gov't Mule, part of their new double album, as we were discussing, a full album of Mule, and then alternate artists doing your songs. And what is it like to hear other artists performing music you have written and performed?
It's a wonderful feeling. One of the things that I think people will take away from Shout is the fact that there's two versions of the same song will give people not only some more insight into the songs themselves, but also into what it is that singers do. When great singers like all the folks that are on disc 2, when they interpret someone's song, they interpret it in a way that only they could. So I'm imagining the way I think they're going to sound, but until they actually start singing, I don't know. And of course, their versions are so different than mine in a good way. It's I think it's cool to see how much of the song changes from interpretation. And with some singers more than others,
You've covered a lot of songs in your career, solo, just, jamming at a show. The Gov't Mule New Year's Eve shows have been known to take an entire album of another artist. And so how do you, when people mention that you've played their music, is it generally, what kind of response do you usually get? 'Cause I would think that'd be the ultimate form of flattery.
I think it usually is. I don't know anyone that would take offense to that. I'm sure someone exists somewhere that would, but it's when I find out people have covered my songs, I'm very honored and flattered by it. And it is a great way to tell someone how much you love a song, is to cover it. Gov't Mule is in that scene of bands that plays a different set list every night and plays for 3 hours. So us covering somebody's song on a normal night is pretty common. We do it a lot, but there are different reasons for choosing a cover song. Sometimes it's a song that I always wanted to sing. Sometimes it's a song that I wish I had written. Sometimes it's just sheer shock value. Like, wow, nobody would ever expect us to do this.
Well, because you've covered any range of songs, I've heard you do. Everything from as mellow as Wasted Time, to Black Sabbath. So it's, what a range. You never know what to expect.
And that's a good example. Wasted Time, song I wish I'd written. Gorgeous, gorgeous song. When we covered War Pigs for the first time by Black Sabbath, America was going to war, which most of us were unhappy about.
That's on your New Year's Eve album, I believe, from Atlanta.
And we just thought, wow, it would really freak people out if we played Black Sabbath, especially at that time. That was so early in our career that we were still kind of making the rules. And we had not done anything that odd at that point. I think that was the first curveball of that stature.
Not a lot of people are covering Black Sabbath. It's difficult, but
it is.
But
War Pigs is a classic.
It's tough, but your vocals and the band, it's tight as can be on that. I mean, I haven't heard another version of that that's come anywhere close.
I love that version, and then we also did it for The Deepest End with Jason Newsted playing bass, and that was a cool version as well. But I only want to do a cover song if we can do it justice and or take it somewhere different.
We're going to talk a little bit about this year's Double Jam, the 25th, 2 shows coming up, both sold out, but a way that people can still watch via the stream. That's the first thing. We're going to talk about that. Let's do Patchwork Quilt from a previous visit you had in the Rock 104.9 studios and then come back.
Cool.
Patchwork Quilt from a previous visit of Warren Haynes, right now currently in the Rock 104.9 studios. Tickets for both nights, Friday and Saturday, sold out, which is great for folks that are not only going, but for Habitat for Humanity, the beneficiary of all the money raised, over $1.3 million over the years. I think has it been about 15 years, I believe, that Habitat has been the recipient?
Yeah, something like that.
About 15 of the 25. Yeah. The first decade or so was you guys jamming at smaller venues and just picking a local charity, and it would rotate. Yeah,
and when we finally stumbled onto Habitat, if that's the right, we just stayed with it.
Because of the tangibleness of it, because you can see what it's doing, is that one of the reasons?
That's a big reason for me. I think with any charity situation, there's got to be some question of how much of the actual money is trickling down to the charity. Mm-hmm. With Habitat, we see exactly where it's going. We see the houses we're building, and they're a wonderful organization that's been around for a long time and very reputable, and it just seemed to work.
There's a lot of artists, be it musicians, actors, or other, that are involved in charitable works, but not many that are as involved hands-on as you are. Some just lend a name, some lend a little bit of a performance, whatever that may be, but this show is your baby. You start this thing not long after one is over. You start planning for the next year. It's yourself and your wife and getting everybody together. And, I can only imagine the juggling that takes place this weekend of the organization, but it all comes off without a hitch.
Well, there are a lot of people that are part of the team that makes it happen. And my thanks to all of them, because I'm only dealing with a small fraction of it. I'm dealing with the creative side and the music. I don't have to deal with all the logistical production nightmares.
Well, I couldn't imagine if you could. That would be, that'd be a little bit overwhelming, I would imagine, right?
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot, and I'm really thankful for all the people that make it happen. And that obviously includes all the great musicians and artists that have played through the years, because that's what sells the tickets, and that's what puts the money in Habitat.
Do you think that's one of the reasons people embrace this particular show, this effort so much, is because it seems so genuine and it can touch so many people? The housing, the dream of housing, and the fact that these people that are the recipients of the homes, they've got to work on it themselves. It's not really just a handout. It's it's a cooperative effort.
Yeah, I think that was one of the reasons that we chose Habitat way back when and stayed with them as well, is in the world of musicians, you're going to be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't believe in this cause. And there are certain causes that are very noble and worthy, but may not be supported by universally as many people, And it's it's easy to give back when what you're giving back is what you love to do.
The homes you built with this, and of course the sales of the CDs and the DVDs, and let's talk about the stream. It all goes to Habitat, so it's more than just the show. And I think I saw a figure of, is it 25 homes? You've basically built a neighborhood. I mean, it's a home is great, but a neighborhood practically.
Well, I just feel fortunate to have somehow accidentally created that opportunity, because like most things in my life, it wasn't designed that way. Like we were talking about with Shout earlier, things start out as one thing and turn into something else, and I guess sometimes recognizing the opportunity is one of the most important aspects. We started the Christmas Jam as a chance to have fun for local musicians, and it has turned into what it is, and I'm glad that we were able to take advantage of that opportunity, but the opportunity had to be there for us to be able to take advantage of it.
Now, for folks that won't be at the Jam on Friday or Saturday night, don't got tickets, a little too late to the party to get yours, and dang, it's sold out. You guys have partnered with Tour Gigs this year, so it'll be available either on a one night or two night. You can get one or both, with all the proceeds benefiting Habitat for Humanity via a stream. Single night ticket, $20. Both nights, there's where you want to go. $30, so you can see both nights and all the different artists that mix and match. And they can have access to that by going to xmasjam.com, or?
Yes.
Okay, go to xmasjam.com. I actually have a neighbor that he's an electronic whiz. He runs everything through his computer. And he told me about this as soon as he found out. He goes, this will be awesome, because he's got surround sound and a big screen, and he runs it through his computer. So it'll be just like he's there practically.
Yeah, it'll be a really high-quality version, both visually and sonically. And it's important that you mentioned as well that the proceeds from that go to Habitat as well. So if anybody is thinking, oh, why am I paying for a stream or whatever, it's a way of connecting to the charity.
And having some great music. I mean, my goodness, you're talking about a couple of 7-hour shows. That's the biggest bargain you'll see.
Yeah, and when we do the DVDs and the audio CDs, all that money goes to Habitat as well. There's no part of Christmas Jam that benefits the artist other than spiritually and emotionally.
And there's tertiary folks that benefit as well. Once again, you're partnering with Grateful Bread for the 4th annual Warm Clothing Drive. So if you're coming to the shows, or even if you're not, you're just going to be downtown, you can drop off some gently used clothing. We probably all got one or two in our closets we don't wear anymore, that the less fortunate, which will be distributed to the homeless by Homeward Bound, can take advantage of. So please drop those off between 5 and 8 on Friday or Saturday night right in front of the U.S. Cellular Center. That's just another way to help.
Yeah, and each year we try and keep that part of it growing, where there's different aspects of it, whether it be the by-day music that's happening these days, or before the Jam lend a hand, where people come in and volunteer their time and energy with helping build the houses physically.
One more song and then we'll say goodbye. Let's play Gordon James from a previous visit with Warren Haynes in the Rock 104.9 studio. Warren Haynes, want to appreciate you stopping by. Of course, again, thank you so much as you make your time available for us every single year. The sold-out Jam Friday and Saturday night. Go to xmasjam.com, and you can order it via stream, watch it on your home computer, plug it into your TV. You folks have probably better techie knowledge than I do. And if you're out and about this weekend somewhere in downtown, pick yourself up a Christmas Jam ale, which I have enjoyed on several occasions. For you beer snobs out there like myself, I'll give it a quick little explanation. It's a session ale. It's low in alcohol, so for a long concert, it might be the best type beverage for you to have. It's only 4%. It's got a nice little hoppiness to it. I know in previous years, it's been brewed locally by Asheville Brewing Company. This year, their head brewer went out to Chico, California to Sierra Nevada where they brewed it. Of course, they're opening a big facility right here in
that's right.
Asheville. And so they're handling the brewing, which is going to mean more availability.
Yeah.
And a quality beer from Sierra Nevada. So that's the Christmas Jam Ale. Look for that as they have partnered with Asheville Brewing Company. And don't forget the Christmas Jam by Day events.
That's right.
If you can't get into the jams at night, lots of great music happening downtown Friday and Saturday. And xmasjam.com, the location for that in full lineup.
A lot of really cool regional bands and artists that are part of that, and then a lot of the folks that traveled to be here, musicians. A lot of them show up unannounced and sit in. And it's. I remember one year Gov't Mule did a surprise show. I know Derek Trucks has showed up. A lot of the different people through the years would just kind of show up and see what happens.
At multiple venues as well. And looking at the forecast, Saturday is going to be a little bit nasty, so you're not going to be running around doing any mountain biking or nothing. Might be a good time just to head downtown and just start wandering into some venues, catching some great music for a good cause. Once again, money's going to Habitat for Humanity. As part of that, local businesses stepping up. Everybody really getting behind this effort. 25 years and 25 more, we're hoping, right?
I hope so. I hope so.
No, you're going to be here 25 years. That'll make you 226, I think we talked.
Well,
I was told to be no math.
I was doing dog years.
Yeah. Oh. Well, that clarifies that then. See, I wasn't.
I'm only 29.
Warren Haynes, thank you so much for coming by. We appreciate you again. We'll see you Friday and Saturday nights, and see you next year.
Thanks, Rick.